together, you want to put the books on the floor, give yourself some room, so you can read. I think I've used this as an intro before, but just as a reminder, how many of you are science fiction fans in the room? Any? Okay. How many of you remember there was a summer replacement show about 25 years ago called Crusade? Many of you remember that? It was called Crusade. It was a spin-off of Babylon 5. Anyone remember Babylon 5 as a show?
Oh,
Crusade
yeah.
is sort of a spin-off from that. And the reason I'm bringing this up is not just to talk about TV, but the intro to the show, the premise of the show was this outlandish, the earth is suffering from this plague, and they need to put together a crew of people who are going to find the cure for the plague that we're dying from. And as the captain, I forget the story, what they did for the opening credits of the show every week is they replayed a particular scene that was seen in episode 1. And as he's trying to interview the people he wants to be on his crew, the captain comes across this one particular very strange individual. Tall, gaunt, he wears a Franciscan robe, and he's something of a warrior monk. Kind of like a combination of St. Francis of Assisi and the Terminator, one person. And he's interviewing this person to be on the crew. The person turns around and starts firing questions at him. And he asks him 2 questions. I will join you if you tell me, whom do you love and whom do you serve? And the guy's kind of taken back by the questions. And then, of course, every week the music in the background comes up and the credits come up, and that's how the show starts. Whom do you love and whom do you serve? Because ultimately, the point of the show, it turns out that the answers to those questions were really what this journey was about. This really wasn't about saving the planet as much as it ends up being about saving him, because he has to answer those questions for himself. You will come in times in your life when you will ask yourself those questions. You will have to make choices about where you want to go and what you want to do with whom. And there will be no quibbling, no middle, no wondering if what the meaning of is. You either get on the ship and go or you don't. First reading that Samantha read. We're told that some 33 centuries ago, a ragtag group of people, many of whom had been slaves in Egypt, many of whom also were the poor of the land, who joined them and kind of made their story, the immigrant story, their own story, very much like the story of this country. They come together at a holy site. And they're under the leadership of the second generation leader. The first generation leader was named Moses. The second generation leader, in Hebrew, his name is Yeshua, or sometimes pronounced in English, Joshua. He gets them together, and he says to them, look, we've come to the end of the war. God has given us this land. Now, you've got to make a choice. And you can go one of 2 ways, using the words of the text. Revere God, serve Him alone. Be sincere, be faithful. Put away whatever the priorities, whatever the idols, whatever the gods your people worship, and understand that if you walk with us, you walk this journey, this path alone. Choose to be faithful, or go your own way. But you can't have it both ways. You can't pick and choose and determine, I will follow you on my terms. And from that encounter, we see there were many who defected, there were many who were happy in the beginning, then when it gets to be difficult, the whole relationship deteriorates. And there are those finally who are determined, who can honestly say, whatever you do is up to you. As for me, I'll serve the Lord. I'll keep faith. Fast forward. It is now only about 20 centuries ago. And another Jewish leader, a rabbi, whose name also in Hebrew is Yeshua, but we pronounce it by another name. Yeshua is also pronounced not only as Joshua, it's pronounced as Jesus. And he gathers the people around him, and you who have been coming here week after week after week, we've been reading one chapter in the Gospel of John for the last 5 weeks. 69 verses of this chapter, some of which we repeat over and over. He has fed this crowd, he has taught them that they're seeking wisdom in their lives. He is the true wisdom. It is his word that's even greater than the word of their ancestors, that he really is the bread that will feed them. That he himself is divine revelation, and his purpose has been to communicate life to them. And if you go on the journey with him, you will experience life and live forever, but it's a journey that's going to take you into a path that will be very uncomfortable. At times it may bring you to the cross. But he says, choose me. Make up your minds, choose me. If you can't, go in peace. But if you will, choose me and walk with me. And there will be those who walk away because they saw where he was heading. There are those who are going to be close followers up to a point, and then they're going to dictate to him what they want him to be. Kind of like what we do at times. We're very comfortable with Jesus when he speaks happy, joyful, consoling words. When we see him as a healer or a military hero, but don't challenge me. Don't make me upset. And for God's sake, don't bring me to the cross and make me have to face that. And yet there is one person in the group. His name is Peter. In Greek, that means rocky. Okay? That was his personality, that was his denseness of head, and that was his firmness of commitment. When Jesus turns around and there's no longer a crowd following him, like he says to Peter, as he says to us, or what about you? Are you going to stay with me or not? And Peter can say, where else can I go? Who else makes sense? You're the only one who offers life. Today is about making choices, about being loyal, keeping faith. I love the character of Peter because sometimes he just lacks understanding. He is befuddled and bewildered. He runs away. He denies his friend. He desperately needs forgiveness. He lacks courage, and the only thing big about him is his mouth. And yet he is so much like us. Disciple of Christ means making the choice, accepting God's grace, being reborn in the Spirit, being a person drawn to Jesus by the Father. So for these many weeks, we've been listening to the fact that if you need your spiritual life fed, come here and let him feed you. You are fed by his word, you are fed at his table. But choose him and journey with him. Because ultimately it comes down to the same question that was posed in that series. Ultimately the question is this: whom do you love and whom do you